Hello, business building warrior. Welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'm your opening host. Today, I'm going to turn it over to Brian and Robin Joy, two great coaching team leaders on our team here in just a moment. But I wanted to do a couple of announcements first before we get into this midweek episode. Brian and Robin will be talking more about sourcing and the vital strategy of focusing on sourcing, especially as a new seller, why that's so important and why we focus on that so much in our content and our coaching and on our podcast episodes. I think we give sourcing strategy tips on pretty much every show because that is the heart of your e-commerce online selling business, finding good products, right? But before we get into that great content from Brian and Robin Joy, I wanted to spend a couple minutes with you and alert you of a couple things. You're going to start hearing us talk about this quite a bit as 2024 is winding down. 2025, believe it or not, is right around the corner, which means our May conference is coming at us fast. The Proven Conference is the name of it. You can go to this website, theprovenconference.com. It's 3 words long, theprovenconference.com. The last 3 days of May of 2025, we're going to gather in Orlando, Florida. Last year, we used the same resort. It went so great. We negotiated an even better deal on room rates. We're going back to the same place. It's a beautiful resort, the DoubleTree, right by SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida. So bring your family, come a few days early, stay a few days late. The last 3 days of May, the 29th, 30th, the 31st of May, 2025, plan to join us. Dozens of breakout sessions on all manner of topics, everything from brand new, clueless newbies all the way up to the most advanced topics in our community being discussed. It's a great time of hanging out, getting to know your fellow warriors from this community, the other people who listen to this podcast, hang out in our free Facebook group, the people who are proven Amazon course students or coaching students in our community, all the coaches, most of them will be there. It's going to be phenomenal. I expect we'll have well over 800 people again this year, and it's just going to be a great 3 days. A very family-friendly environment. Plan to be there. Circle those days in your calendar. You can go ahead and buy tickets now. Get over to theprovenconference.com. Snag your tickets. No reason to wait. The hundreds of people have already bought their tickets. It's going to be a phenomenal event. Can't wait. And the other thing I wanted to do is a little favor. If you haven't done this yet, it's just a little favor. There's a website, silentjimdotcom/vote. silentjim.com/vote. The November elections are now behind us in the United States, but there's still one more important vote we need you to make. If you would take 2 minutes, go to that website, give you instructions there. We've been nominated as one of the best Amazon seller Facebook groups and courses and conferences and podcasts in the industry. And we'd love to get your vote. If you think we've earned it, we would sure love for you to take a couple minutes. Use that link, silentjim.com/vote. Go vote for us and see where we end up in the rankings. It's going to be pretty exciting to see how all this plays out. It was just an honor to be nominated and named among some of the other great contributors to the Amazon selling universe. And there's all kinds of categories we weren't nominated in, but we were nominated for some pretty cool ones. Facebook group, best course, best event, best podcast. Those are some pretty cool categories to be in. Speaking of events, I already mentioned it, but did you know that's the longest running Amazon seller conference in the world? Our Proven Conference is the longest running Amazon seller conference in the world. Got our 13th coming up. It's one I just told you about in May. Well, hey, that's enough from me for today. Let's jump over, spend some time with Brian and Robin Joy. They've got a great topic for us. Take it away, guys.
Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Hey, Brian, this week we were having some conversations around something that I thought might be really helpful for our listeners, and that's about where we put our efforts.
Where we put our efforts, yes. Let me just say this right out of the gate.
Okay.
I think you will be ahead of 99.9% of every other person who wants to do this business if you can do this one thing.
Okay, what's that one thing? I'm interested.
Well, let me just we're gonna zoom into one thing. Let's start with some of maybe a little bit bigger picture. All right. what do we do? We spent how many weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks making this series of the 7 core competencies required in the business, right? And we know that there are many moving parts in this business,
right?
From the financials, like doing your bookkeeping and accounting, to how you're going to manage the scale up of your business, to hiring contractors and potentially getting warehouse space one day, and all these things, right?
Right. It can be kind of daunting when you put it like that.
And I think people come into this business, they're like, yes, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
They have all this energy and they want to spread this energy across all the things.
You're right.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's commendable.
It is, absolutely. But
what's practical?
What's practical and what's really going to make the difference here is focus all of that energy and time in the one thing that matters. For the first 8 to 12 weeks of your journey here, as long as you're I should say it a different way, your first 8 to 12 shipments probably for shipping every week, just time isn't going to do it. You have to have some action behind this too, right?
Right.
Is in sourcing. If you take all the energy that you were going to spend across all the core competencies and all the different, niches in the business acumen piece and focus it on the one thing that is sourcing, you're going to be ahead of virtually everybody else who's trying to figure out how to do this business.
Absolutely. We all know this who are on the other side of this. We all know that that's the one big hurdle you got to get past first. And truth be told, none of those other things, shopping doesn't matter, shipping doesn't matter, repricing, replenishing, none of that matters if you haven't done the first thing, sourcing, finding some ASINs to test.
You are going to have to do some shopping and some prepping and some
in that first
shipping
8 to 12 weeks. Yes.
In the first 8 to 12 weeks. And theoretically, in the last, half of that, or last quarter of it anyway, you're probably going to be doing some repricing.
Right.
But none of those things matter unless and until you get the sourcing part down.
That's right. And none of those things are going to happen until you source something. You're not going to get better at. How do you get better at something? How do you get better at sourcing, Brian?
Do it over and over and over.
Yeah, we were talking about this too. If the odds are that in the beginning, 8 out of 10 are going to end up being successful tests or tests that can become replenishable items, then don't you want to get those 8 out of the way so that, celebrate the fact that, okay, there's 6 of the ones I got to go through. Let's go get to the...
You're talking about unsuccessful. I think you said successful, but if 8 out of 10 are not going to work for you, you want to get those out of the way.
That's what I meant to say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to get those out of the way. And if you're going to be 50% successful in your tests until you get some history and practice and learn the skill behind you where you'll be closer to 90%, you want to get that 50% part out of the way.
Yeah.
So celebrate the fact that you've gotten past that and you're working into getting better and you're on the road, right?
Yeah. I get questions a lot from newer coaching clients. I see it in the Facebook group. I know you do too. We all probably do. Like, hey, I just started this business. Which repricer should I get?
Yeah.
Or I just started this business. I'm looking at warehouse space. I just started this business and tell me how to use, QuickBooks.
And, when you say this business, you're talking about a replenishable.
Yeah, I'm talking about Replens business.
Right.
And really none of those things matter until you solve sourcing.
Yes. And it takes time to get good at it. So put in the time, celebrate the time you've put into it, and know that you're on the road. But if you're not doing it, you're not on that road.
You say something all the time that I think resonates with me, especially in this part of the business, this phase of the business. When you're brand new, you only get to do this once.
Yeah. You only get your first kiss once.
Yeah. It's only going to feel like guesswork. It's only going to feel new. It's only going to feel like whatever that feeling is for you the first time through. You only get to do it once.
You're only going to be in that period one time.
So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to go through that period.
Relish being in that space where you might be struggling, and when one win feels monumental to you, right?
Yeah. Remember how that feels because you're not going to get that again. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, I'd rather put that behind me. But the only way to do that is to go through it. What's the 6-year-old
Can't go
wisdom.
around it.
Can't go around it. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Gotta go through it.
Yeah. Well,
we're going on a bear hunt.
Yeah.
We'll be doing that. Thanksgiving's coming up. We're going to be going on bear hunts, I'm pretty sure.
I think ours are about growing out of that.
Yeah, they may be so. Although they would still do.
But the floor is lava still seems to be.
The floor is lava. That's a whole thing. Yes.
Well, anyway, that's just like if you can laser focus all of that. We try to spread it out thinking we have to do all of the things. And I'm as guilty as the next person when it comes to this because I did this too.
As am I.
Right. And I think I see a lot of people doing this. And I even had a conversation with Jimmy Smith. I think he was speaking at the Proven Conference a year or two ago. And he was like, the first thing that happened when I went full time is I thought I had to do everything. And then as a result, nothing was great. I mean, he had a great Replens business. Don't get me wrong. But, you know,
you're talking about different strategies.
Different strategies. Yeah. Like, don't feel like you have to do everything. Your number one job if you're just starting a Replens business is to learn how to source. And not just, you know, Robin says all the time, you got to look at ASINs. How many ASINs do you got to look at? There's more to it than just looking at the ASINs. You actually have to get some experience in the ASINs. So you have to buy, so you have to shop and prep and get some stuff sent in and then compare, you know, your actual experience with your proposed experience or your hypothesized experience and figure out what the delta is and get better the next time and get better the next time and get better the next time. Right.
Just like you play the scales on the piano when you're learning to play piano.
I don't care how good you are at setting up QuickBooks for your business.
No.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't make you money.
It doesn't make you money. I don't care how good you are at setting up your repricer. A repricer can make you money eventually.
Yeah. You can also lose your money real fast.
Yes, it can. I don't care how good you are at setting up your inventory management system. That doesn't matter unless you are good at sourcing, unless you've solved for sourcing. And, you know, some of these things can happen at the same time.
Sure.
You know,
and
over
they
time.
Inevitably do over time. Right.
Yeah. But if you just can be laser focused, you will be ahead of 99.9% of the people who are trying to start this business.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, good.
Well, Brian, that leads me to ask you a question. I usually want to ask you, you know, what have you been hearing from coaching clients, right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, what have you been hearing from coaching clients?
That's where I was going to go with this. So what I have been hearing a lot of lately is people who want to, I always tell new clients who come to me in the one-on-one coaching program, let's meet first. Let's kind of make a plan for how we're going to start your work, right? So we're not going to have everything figured out that first time because we have to make a plan to kind of test how much progress are you going to be able to, how much time is it going to take for you to make progress? How much progress can you make in each increments? Because like you always say, incremental process is what you have to accomplish.
Yep.
So people come to me and they have goals, and that's good. And I want to hear your goals, and we write those goals down and we remember them. But the goals are not the plan. The plan is, you know, what do I have to do to make my next step? What do I have to accomplish to get to the next incremental learning step? So that's a plan. And I often have people say, oh, well, I want to have 100 ASINs within 6 months. I want to have $250,000 in profits by the end of the year. And those are great. Those are great goals. But those are challenges. Those are not plans. The plan is, how am I going to make progress towards my goal? And that has to be worked out over, couple, 2 or 3 sessions, because you don't know what your pace is going to be until you get in there and you start doing the work.
And you get better and better, every week, theoretically. But it reminds me of a quote that this is not the quote for the session, for the episode here.
That was fast. Thank you.
Right? But it was like, plan your work and work your plan.
Right. It didn't say plan your results. It said plan your work.
Plan your work. Yes. You can lay the results out.
Yes. the expected results, like you were talking about before.
And then you have
to plan the work to get those results.
And then you have to work the work or work the plan, right? In order to see how, in order for those to come to fruition.
Yes. And something that's misunderstood is until you get in there and start doing it, let's say you're digging a hole. Right? Until you get in there and you have the shovel that you have and you start digging the hole and see how hard the ground is, whether it's rained recently or not, where it's located, if there are a lot of rocks in there. You don't know any of that until you start digging. You don't know if your tool's going to work until you start digging. So you start digging, then you make adjustments. You keep digging, then you make adjustments. Then you learn how to make adjustments. Okay, at a certain level, it's going to get really rocky. I know that I'm going to need to. Then you start making a real plan. But in the beginning, it's just kind of planning to make a plan to do your work.
Well, this kind of reminds me of those times when I was first sort of breaking through that sourcing barrier. So it's kind of related to the previous topic, and we like to say all the time, I'd come home from work, I'd go into the
it's
into
true.
the office.
We don't just like to say it.
I know. And I would spend 2-3 hours a night in their sourcing. I'd come out and you would say, "Did you find anything?" And I was like, "No." And that was kind of like planning the result. What I didn't appreciate about that at the time was that I was actually working the plan. And the plan was laid out for me. With me and my coach got together and decided what that plan was going to be. And part of getting to the results is the learning curve that I was going through that led to nothing.
And your coach knew. Your coach could see that's going to happen, and she knew that you didn't understand that, but you still had to do it.
Still had to get the experience, even if the results were not what I was in that short time period. The results, like, I didn't find anything tonight.
I didn't become an expert this week.
I didn't become an expert this week, right? Oh, no, I'm not an expert yet. Not an expert yet. Well, so we're writing a book right now.
Yeah.
Okay. We know, we're talking about the iterative process.
Yes.
And the book creation process, when you come out, because you're,
oh my gosh,
like we work together on the outline, and you're kind of going in and working on the fleshing it out, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm doing the copywriting, or I'm doing the editing,
right?
And or not the editing, I'm doing some editing, right? We're both working on this. But when you come out, when I come home in the afternoon, and you're like, "Oh, I was working on the book today," I was like, I don't say to you, "Well, is the book done yet?" Because then you, no, the book's not done yet. No, the
Did you make progress? Yes, I made progress.
Right. That's kind of the message.
I know what my goal is, and I've made progress toward my goal.
That's kind of what I was trying to get to, is that incremental progress that you're working the plan.
Yes.
You're not working the results.
Right.
The results come by working the plan.
Exactly. Very good.
So little bit of incremental progress, which you may not even see on a week-to-week basis.
Right.
Right? You're getting 2%, 3%, 4%, or even whatever it is, 10%.
Yeah.
On
of that incremental change.
Right. If we put that sort of progress into the 12 weeks of sourcing and say, well, you're learning 8%, you're getting 8% better every week. So at the end of 12 weeks, well, you're 100% there. We have said this before. Give us 12 weeks. Right. If you will do this for 12 weeks, even though you're not going to necessarily see results in the first 4 to 6 weeks.
And we're not talking about be in business for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Have something waiting to sell for 8 weeks. We're talking about if you will source and find new testable ASINs for 12 weeks, then what?
Then at the end of 12 weeks, you're going to be much, much better at this. I'm not saying you're going to be an expert at the end of 12 weeks.
No, but
you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead.
You're going to be way more comfortable. Yeah. And that's great, because at that point, we got to add some more plates to your spinning plate set, right?
Yeah.
So I remember, I keep aging myself, but back in the days of the variety shows, Red Skelton, and the guy would be on the stage and he'd start spinning a plate on the end of a stick.
Yeah.
And I go, great. You spin that plate, and you go, and you knew he's pretty good at this. That's not going to fall. Then he'd go and he'd get another plate. He'd get another stick, and he starts spinning 2 plates. Now he's got 2 going, but he's got control of both of them, one in each hand, And then pretty soon he's got somebody brings him another stick. Oh, and now he's got to let go of one and start swinging the other one and swing them a little bit at a time. Pretty soon he's got 10 different ones, one on the back of his shoe, and all these sticks are spinning plates, and he's got to keep going. And you're like, I could never do that. But he started with one plate.
Yeah, one.
And that plate is still spinning, even though he's got one on the back of his shoe and, 3 over here that he has to run around to. That first plate's still spinning. Otherwise, it wouldn't be impressive at all, would it?
No, because if you just did one plate,
I can do a plate. Now I can go to a plate, right?
Yeah. These first 12 weeks, you're never going to get that experience back. Like if you go through it, I mean, yeah, I guess you can rebuild, but it's never this. It's not the same the second time through, right? So getting good in this sourcing or whatever that is for the 12-week stretch that you're doing it. If the next 12 weeks is, let's say, on your replenishing strategy or your pricing strategy or your business acumen, whatever. Even,
adding like gift cards and discounts to your sourcing, like.
You need to be so good at this that you can define it in a few very simple steps. And in the beginning, it seems long and complicated, right? But the more you do it, the more it boils down to some very simple things that eventually, maybe as soon as 12 weeks in, you can hand off to somebody else.
Well, and that's another thing that we've started incorporating into our coaching sessions, right? Is I know all these things that you want to do, all these things, and I need you to be good at all these things, but this one I need you to be good at first. And it's not that I need to understand. I need you to understand. So I say, next time we talk, I need you to explain to me what your method is for going to find ASINs to test, how you're making that decision. You need to have that down. You need to understand what that is. Then I need you to tell me what kind of time you're going to use and what you're going to do during that time. And we'll brainstorm it and we'll work it out. And then you'll come back and you'll be able to explain it. When you can explain it, I know we can check that box. You've built that skill and we can move on. Not that it won't be adjusted, not that it won't be changed as time over time, but you know how to plan your time now.
Yep.
Right? That's one of the skills you have to learn.
And what's really interesting about this is if, we give people the homework. I give people the homework all the time.
I do too.
Tell me how many hours. Like in our first session, how many hours do you have for this business? Oh, I've got 15 hours. Great. Okay. I want you to come back. Between now and when we meet again, send me your calendar. Yeah. Show me which days, where your hours are. And right now we're filling in all those blocks with just sourcing because that's the only thing we have to do.
Right.
And you feel clunky, you feel out of sorts, you feel not coordinated, right? During the initial part of this, especially for the first few weeks, probably. But then you have to start integrating some other aspects of the business in fairly, these are more routine. And, when we say earlier, the only thing you have to work on is sourcing, not true, right? You technically do have to shop and prep and ship.
Yes.
But my argument for this is, you had the best argument, which is,
none of those things, even those things don't matter if you haven't sourced.
If you don't have anything to shop for, then the rest of it doesn't matter.
How much money you have available to you doesn't get you ahead in building your foundation.
Right. How big your warehouse is, that doesn't help. Yeah. How many tools you already have set up, that doesn't help. But also the shopping, prepping, and shipping, these are more mechanical things that come more naturally to us anyway.
True. But I would say the shipping part, this is why we do it in Kickstart. That is one of the things that really it presents challenges that people don't know to prepare for.
Okay.
You just don't know until you go through the process. But again, it doesn't matter if you don't have anything to ship.
Well, but we digress. Where I was trying to go with this is if it's 15 hours and those 15 hours are all for sourcing, and it feels really not efficient in the beginning, when you have to start adding some of these other things in, guess what? You've gotten better at sourcing. You don't need 15 hours a week for sourcing anymore.
Right.
Now,
so you can add another spinning plate.
Yes. Now you can do this in 12 hours or 10 hours or 8 hours.
But you have to use all those hours in order to get that experience and that efficiency.
Yeah. So if you feel like it's taking all of your time to source and you are new in this business,
You're on the
according
right track.
to plan, right?
Yes,
That's the plan.
That's the plan. Exactly. Very good.
And the more you do it, the more efficient you will get. And then that opens up time to do the other parts of the business.
Another plate.
To add another plate in. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so Brian,
yeah.
what have you been hearing lately? What do you hear yourself saying a lot of lately in your coaching?
We work in tandem. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're a coaching team,
right?
But we have not ever, maybe once, I think, been on a coaching call at the same time.
Yeah. In the very beginning, when I started coaching, we tried to do that and it didn't work out really well. But it does work really well to have both calendars open. And you can either get on Brian's calendar when we're assigned as your coach. Mm-hmm. You have Brian's calendar, or you can get on my calendar. The reason that's important is because I usually get them first.
You do, yeah. You usually take the first
couple
handful of sessions, yeah.
And then sometimes I'll send them to you, say you need to have a talk with Brian about that. You're ready for this session with Brian, or they just happen to, your schedule works better and they get onto your schedule next, and that works really well too because we can see what we've talked about and where we are on the plan.
So what I usually get is, I wish I would have started with you because you're way better than Robin. No,
yeah, probably. No, they're probably like, I wish I would have started with you. You're way nicer than Robin.
How am I nicer?
You'll go over time. Robin won't. You'll let me off on my homework if I get it. No, Robin wants to talk about it.
No, I don't actually. So I would say maybe I'm a little more flexible on time. I don't know. It's because I only have 2 sessions at night.
Right.
So that second session sometimes, and I'm usually back to back. And so that second session, sometimes it does go a little bit over.
Yeah.
Whereas you are back to back to back to back all day.
All day.
So you don't have the luxury of, I'll give an extra 5 minutes here, right? I got to be done on time because I got to move on to the next one. And I do hold my clients accountable.
You've gotten way better. Well, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but when I think back about the various learning experiences I've had, whether it was like teachers in grade school, junior high, or middle school and high school, or professors in college,
sports coaches,
in anything that I was doing, the ones that maybe I hated the most in the moment were the ones that didn't cut me any slack, but the ones I appreciate the most today are the ones that didn't cut me any slack.
I agree with you. I look back and I feel the same thing. And part of that is if the ones that let me off the hook, I don't think they believed that I could really accomplish what was asked of me.
Or you think that must be it. They must be letting me off the hook because they think I can't do it.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. If you're getting let off the hook by me, you're probably not.
I have not known you to let anyone off the hook ever.
We may adjust the goal.
Yeah.
It could be that, I was.
We make corrective actions. And
sure.
This is not like punishment, but just like, okay, it didn't work great there. Let's try this.
Let's go back a little bit. Yeah. Right. So many times people are like, well, I can't find any replenishable ASINs. Okay, let's step back. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can find some testable ASINs first.
Let's go back and say,
don't know.
You know how to find viable ASINs, right? Demonstrate that you can find viable ASINs. Are any of those viable ASINs testable? Great. Then let's test. And then if we're not getting the replenishables out of the viables, then we just need to figure out the viable, test. Is the testable criteria you're using correct? Is it working for you or not?
Or do we need to make adjustments?
Exactly.
Right. That's very true. And when so many people do come to us and say, I want accountability. Mm-hmm. I need some accountability to keep me focused, right? Not to slap my hand when I do something wrong, to help me stay focused. And that is a big part of what we do for people. But that's because, when I go into coaching, I want accountability to be part of that as well. Because I know that if you hold me accountable, that you believe I can do it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
If you believe in me, then maybe I can believe in me.
Well, and so what is interesting usually when I get a follow-up session from a student that you've been working with previously is what we do is we we'll start evaluating their results. We're doing results evaluation a lot. And this comes in the form of profitability or efficiencies or whatever. There are so many different ways you can measure it, but what usually happens is people come to me and they're like, I don't know if I'm making any money, right?
Yeah.
And then we do some analysis and they're like, oh, I am making money.
Right.
Oh,
I just didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't understand where it was.
That's not the prettiest ASIN I've ever seen, but I did make a little bit of money on that, and I learned something from it.
There you go.
I can get now. I know. So it's about evaluating the results and saying this worked. I love to say this all the time. What is it that you can learn from every ASIN that you've sent in? There's a lesson to be learned from every single one, whether it went, whether you replenished it or whether you didn't replenish it. There's a lesson likely to be learned.
And it starts becoming these types of ASINs I learned this from. These types of ASINs I learned this. So then it becomes a group of ASINs and a book of business that's adjustable. So yeah, that's really exciting. All right. So that's what you've been hearing from your clients this week?
Well, it varies.
I'm a better coach than you. Yeah. Is that what you said?
Actually, I was talking with someone that I was like, now don't forget, I got him first for some reason because it just schedule-wise it works better. And I was like, better. Robin's a way better coach than me. Make sure you get on her calendar because I did say that. No, I mean, and I would say like, it's not that I'm not a good coach.
You are an excellent coach. Yeah.
Robin is a great coach. Like, I am jealous that I didn't, of course, I couldn't have probably put my ego aside enough to have Robin as my coach at that time.
I barely was able to have you as my coach, and we didn't call it that when you were teaching me what to do.
Yeah. But I would have made so much more progress faster, and nothing against my current coach or the coach that I had, at the time. Yeah. It's not that at all. I just feel like you are an amazing coach. And anyone who gets to work with you is very lucky.
Well, it may be because I love doing it so much.
That's what I was telling somebody else. Like, you can tell that you love doing this. You're a different person when I come home, or when I'm sitting on the other side of the divider from you and I'm listening into your coaching calls. I'm like, man, she has this down. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. Let's just compare this to sourcing for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to when you first started coaching. How is that different from the way you coach today?
Well, I felt like, did it matter what I said? Oh, what am I supposed to say? How do I let them know that I know what I'm talking about? Do I know what I'm talking about? Wait a minute. I was very uneasy and very uncomfortable with the whole thing. And I just, would kind of dread a little bit. But I had to keep, what made me better was I did it. And I do it several hours a week now.
You do it over and over and over and over. And now you've got...
Well, now I've got some expertise in it. And I've seen enough. Just like if you've seen enough ASINs, you get pretty good at predicting, at figuring out what to do with them. When you've seen enough coaching clients and enough businesses of different people that, have different characteristics, then you start seeing the patterns and seeing the places where they fall, seeing the places that you can help. And it takes a little bit of experience. Now I look back and realize, I was better at that than I realized, and I gave myself credit. I wasn't comfortable, so I must not have been good at it.
Well, I would say it's not that you weren't good at it in the beginning, but I think you're better after several years of doing this than you were in the beginning.
As anybody would be. Same way with sourcing. Exactly. Are you better at sourcing now than you were in those days when you're coming in? No, now you're like, hang on, I'm going to go source some stuff real quick and, I'll be there in 15 minutes. Here's a list shopper. Like, you've become so much more confident. You haven't really changed how good you are at it in the last year or so.
Yeah.
What's changed is how comfortable you are by having a group go out, because we've built a foundation. We know we're not going to fall down lower than a certain amount. So you can take a few risks, send a few out there that may or may not be good, but the value of the bulk.
I think there's also, when it comes to the sourcing piece of this, when you get comfortable enough with the fundamentals, then you can add a little creativity to that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really on my radar right now, just totally going off script here, is the sort of automation that exists when it comes to doing what we call bridging the gap. And just to set the premise here, when we say bridge the gap, I'm talking about finding a good ASIN and lining it up with a good source. I've bridged the gap, right? And I have to do a little bit of work on the ASIN evaluation, and I have to do a little bit of work on the source evaluation.
You have to make sure it's the same thing.
Yeah. And then once I've done that, then I've bridged the gap. Then I throw that's what we call a viable ASIN. I throw that in my viable ASIN bucket. And I just keep throwing viable ASINs over there. And
whether I'm going to test them or not. In
the beginning, though, I didn't. I only kept the ones that I was going to test. And what I've learned, it may be earlier on that I'm giving myself credit for, is to keep much more of those, to keep all of them that were viable ASINs for me.
You've done the work.
And today I've done the work, yes, but today there's automation in place that can help us do the work. So it's sort of like using a calculator versus doing math longhand.
Right. You still have to know how to do math.
Exactly. You still have to know how to do it, but you use the calculator when it's sort of like using AI today. Right. I know how to write a paper, but I can use AI to help me get that paper done in a fraction of the time.
Right. Do a little bit of the research, do some editing for me.
We're spinning up a new initiative that we have going right now. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but one of the things I was like, I need a great product description for this product. And I would just pen to paper, and the paper's blank, and I'm like, okay, how do I write this?
Yeah. Now, as opposed to,
I use AI to say, and a very specific type of AI that's written for copywriting, help me create a great product description for product X that has these characteristics. And it does it in seconds.
Right.
And so I was able to
then all you have to do is adjust it and make it yours.
I was able to tweak those product descriptions and get a half of a dozen of them done in like 15 minutes. That would have taken me all day before.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because you're starting with zero.
Yes. So going back to the whole sourcing aspect of this, bridging the gap, there are some tools out there that can help us bridge the gap. And I don't suggest that new people start here, but one of the things—
Because you still need to know how to do that manually before you get a tool to do it.
What I really like about some tools that are out there that I previously maybe I wasn't a big fan of these tools before because I saw them as a crutch for a lot of people. And I think since I've taken a different perspective on it, I see the value in them. Tools like tactical arbitrage, tools like Nepeto, tools like Quick Finds. These are great tools to help us bridge the gap very quickly. Because once I have the faster I can make a big list of viable ASINs. The easier it's going to be for me to identify testable ASINs from that list. That's the power.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And this is a reason that Replen Dashboard and 3P Mercury and these kinds of tools are helpful, because you need, where do I keep all that and keep track of it and be able to source through it and find what I want from it once it becomes. But in the first week, it's not big enough to worry about any of that.
I think this goes into the scaling aspect of your business. It's not a starting point. Because if you don't understand how to do it, and then things can go off track and you don't even know where you need to make a correction. So get good at the basics, the manual part of it, sanding the floor, painting the fence, waxing the car, right? Get good at those things, and then unleash some automation and some artificial intelligence in your business. And man, you're going to be able to scale.
Yeah. And it doesn't take very long.
It does not. That's what we were talking about, 12 weeks.
Yeah. Even shorter.
Yeah.
But if you put the time in, if you put the effort in. But this is something I like to say about tools. I've said it here before, I think. I don't want my tool to decide what my work process is going to be. I want to figure out my work process and then apply a tool. These tools that you've mentioned, we don't use them in the way— like Keepa. We don't use Keepa in the manner that it was created to be used.
Right.
It was used for the consumer, not the seller.
Yeah.
It was created for the consumer, not the seller. But we found a way to use that in our process. We don't let Keepa tell us what our process is. We apply Keepa to our process.
Right. Yeah. Right. I know this is big for you lately.
It is big for me, because I see people say, oh, I bought this tool, and now I have to go study this tool and figure out, how my business is going to look, I hear them saying, even though they might not say those words, I have to go find out the right way to do business because this is the right tool. Mm-hmm. The tool doesn't tell you how to do business. There are some things that it will tell you, and you can apply to that. But if you don't understand where those things came from and what they mean, and you don't have your own process, then you're blindly following someone else who made this tool, who may or may not have the same goals as you have in their business.
Which is exactly why we used to not be fans of tactical arbitrage, because tactical arbitrage has a bunch of things that you can go in there and set, and it gives you results. And then those results are hit and miss. And then you're like, well, I'm spending a lot of money every month for this tool. Relatively speaking, it may or may not be a lot of money, and I'm not getting the results I expect. Well,
and we saw people using it. Well, the tactical arbitrage results are this. It says it matches this ASIN. Go. The way they match ASINs may not be the way you match ASINs. The way they read a keep a chart or what they tell you about a keep a chart may not be what you need to know. That's letting the tool do your process for you, not just make your work more efficient.
How do you trust but verify if you don't have the skill set to verify?
Exactly.
So this is what we do with these tools: trust but verify, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then eventually you'll
use them in the way that works for your business, not necessarily in the way they were intended to be used.
Okay. Well, that was a little bit.
Okay, we got off on that one.
But I like the conversation because I do think there is a place for that. Yeah, in like sort of phase 2, phase 3 of your business building, where you can start implementing some of those things.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have a quote for us today, Brian?
I do. This quote actually came from you. I mean, you gave me the quote. The quote is from Margaret Thatcher. And so just a quick story about this. We got our son this book, like it's this thick book. It's like this big. And it's
our son's a total nerd.
The Book of Uncommon Knowledge.
Unusual knowledge. The Book of Unusual Knowledge. I think.
The book
put a plug
of
for that
Unusual
book.
Knowledge. Yeah, it's this big book, and so we got it for him for Christmas, and it came yesterday, and we cracked it open this morning.
We started looking through it.
We're gonna have to buy another one because we're actually now going through this one, which is really entertaining.
This is cool.
And you said it's pretty affordable on Amazon.
Oh yeah, it's like
too.
$10 or something.
So great gift. But this quote came from this book. That
Matt's going to love this
among
book.
many other quotes and stories from this book that we found entertaining. So anyway, it goes like this. It will be years, not in my lifetime, before a woman will become prime minister.
And who said that?
Margaret Thatcher said it in 1974.
Within 5 years, she was prime minister.
And within 5 years, she was prime minister. Yeah. And I think this speaks to well, first of all, she put it out there.
Right.
And even though her slant or belief on that wasn't accurate, it's sort of like
it was actually negative against her own becoming prime minister, which tells me a lot about starting the conversation. Just because you started the conversation doesn't mean you're where you want to be in it. But there's something magical about starting a conversation based on, something you would like to see, even though you don't believe it could ever happen.
And I think it speaks to this concept that we tend as humans to overestimate what we can get done in a year and underestimate what we could get done in 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
Classic example. Oh, it's never going to happen. Oh,
didn't happen within the year, but
it
was like 4 years later. She was running within that 3 years.
Yeah.
She was running for prime minister. Yeah. So that is just amazing to me, what words will do and what starting the conversation will do, and how much we believe what we believe hard and then realize that's not even true. Not even true. It's tough to believe in yourself in the beginning. It's tough to believe that you can do this when the going is tough. Soon you realize, what was I thinking?
It's just a lot about perspective.
Very much.
If you look at your circumstances and say, woe is me, this doesn't work for me.
Everything's against me.
Everything is going against me. You could take those same circumstances and reframe them in a positive light and say, I don't have a specific example right now, but you could say, this is actually working in my favor because of this that I get to do and that I get to do, or this that I'm learning from and that I'm learning from, as opposed to, it's all bad.
Yeah. And it takes a while sometimes to learn to think that way. And that's okay. And like, we can help you with that too. Like, there are so many things that a coach can do for you. Absolutely recommend the one-on-one coaching with the Jim Cockrum coaching program. Absolutely recommend it for anybody who is planning to build a business. And they have coaches that, advanced coaches as well that teach other strategies and stuff. So check it out. You can find information about that and all of the things that are available in the community by making an appointment at silentjim.com/book a call. silentjim.com/book a call. They have counselors that will meet with you and talk to you about what's available. What are your plans? Where are you in your business? What's available to you to try to help make progress?
Because I think there's much more in the community that's available to people other than coaching. Right?
Yes,
there's Proven
absolutely.
Amazon course, there's coaching, there's Legends, there are courses that are not included in that. There are workshops, there are sourcing systems,
live events.
There's just so much out there that are free, don't cost very much, all the way up to full boat coaching.
Absolutely.
Right? And just being able to have a conversation with someone about where you are. They know the roadmap. And they can say, you might want to just go talk with this person, or go check out this module impact, or go to this conference, or whatever.
Or just say, your instincts are correct.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I see. You were able to explain to me your reasons for that, how you did that, why you did that. So I can check the box. You've built that skill. Your instincts are correct, and you are on the right track there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, great community. Love being a part of this community.
Loving it.
Love having you all tune in to the show. Robin, when you are underestimating what you can do in 3 to 5 years, how is it that you could underestimate it?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. It's a great question. I'm not framing this up correctly,
I don't know what you're trying to get. If we're just
doing a little bit every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Incremental progress.
Improvements, which is for us, test more ASINs.
Test more ASINs.
Just go test more ASINs.
That's
and you'll be much farther along in 3 years than you ever thought possible.
Cheers. Let's go test some more ASINs.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode with us. Thanks for hanging out. I've got a guest I want to bring on before we let you go for the day. It's Mr. Jeff Schick. You've heard him on our program many times before. If you've been listening for a while, he always has a great insight based on his legal assistance to Amazon, Walmart, online sellers. What's on your mind today, Jeff?
So I just want to talk about supply chains. And so keeping healthy supply chains, and of course, that means knowing your source. The biggest thing that we're still seeing is sellers continuing to buy from bad sources. That could be bad websites, but especially bad wholesalers. Mm-hmm. Now, for instance, there's a conference in Vegas every year that a lot of sellers have been coming to me and they say, oh, I found this wholesaler at this conference in Vegas. They must be legit. Well, no one's talking about the fact that everyone up on stage speaking has bought a speaking slot. So that's the vetting that went in is that they bought a speaking slot, not that they are content leader experts. And then everyone that's, has a booth, the only vetting that goes in is not whether they're legitimate or have legitimate supply chains, but whether their check clears the bank. And so
if they have wholesale in the name and their check clears the bank, congratulations, you can be a speaker. Yeah.
You've got a spot. You've got a booth spot. You want to give even more money? We'll give you a sponsored, booth spot, a premier sponsor or whatever. So just, the name of the game there, what I'm trying to tell people is, really look out for these wholesalers. When you're looking at a wholesale site, think of it like a used car. You wouldn't just go in and hand a used car dealer, a $10,000 check just because, the car looks pretty. You're going to inspect it and look for flaws, so things you need to look at, the websites. Obvious misspellings. If the city or street is spelled wrong, or for instance, the phone number is formatted in a foreign format, US is +1, 3-digit area code, 3-digit, dialing code, and 4 digits at the end. If you all of a sudden see +123-456-789, that's a really good indicator that this is a foreign company that doesn't understand US, standards. And so so you have to watch out for that. Huge red flag is affiliate programs. Real wholesale companies don't have affiliate programs because
that's a great line. Yeah, that's so clarifying. If you're dealing with a wholesaler that has an affiliate program and asking you to recruit other people, recruit other Amazon sellers and we'll pay you. Nope. Run.
They're not real. They're not legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, so you definitely want to think twice about those. And then you also want to think twice about the person trying to give you their affiliate, link, so that's, just for that too. So, so I'd really, just encourage people, really do your due diligence. Other big thing, a lot of real wholesalers will take credit cards. If they tell you they take, Cash App, Zelle, wire transfer, those are red flags because, for instance, Venmo and Zelle and Cash App, no legitimate businesses that I know of are taking those forms of payment right now, unless it's like, a taco stand. So if you have like a wholesale company saying that that's what they take, that's a red flag. And part of the reason they want that sort of payment is because, like when you send a Zelle payment, it says the funds cannot be recovered once sent.
Right.
Same thing with a wire transfer. Make sure that you're sending it to a U.S. institution. We had one seller that wired $50,000 to the Bank of China in Shanghai, and they received $50,000 worth of counterfeit goods in return.
Goodness.
Even though the wholesaler had a website that claimed that they were located in Texas.
Oh my goodness. Wow. The stuff you see. Okay, so let me bounce something off you here, Jeff. What I've been saying to people is that the best way, I tell them, remember these 3 little words: ask the brand. Does that advice still hold? Like if I'm going to sell a product, I can cut out every step you just mentioned. Now that's doing your due diligence. But if I ask the brand's going to tell me, yeah, that's a legitimate wholesaler. Yeah, that's a legitimate retailer, website, distributor. Yeah, we work with those guys. They're part of our channel.
Exactly. No, they should. If it's if you get a hold of, a brand customer service or sales representative, they generally will know where the stuff is being sold. So, like for instance, the pet shampoo companies I used to deal with did not sell directly to retailers. They only sold through wholesale. But if you talk to one of their field sales representatives, they wouldn't tell you like, no, you can't buy our product. They would say, here's where you buy our product. And they'd give you a list of all the different wholesalers that are authorized wholesalers of that brand. So.
Got you. But if that product ended up on a retail shelf, would that be considered an authorized product? Sell it as a reseller?
Well, I mean, if you're buying it from a reseller that's listed at the brand, like for instance, some of my shampoos that I sold had, they did have, like PetSmart listed as an authorized source. So if you bought it at PetSmart, then you're good. Right. On the other side of the token, like I was buying from authorized wholesalers, but I was an unauthorized seller. I was the one that Voorhees hates on all the time. And so, if you were to buy the products from me, Amazon wouldn't be able to validate that supply chain. And then interestingly enough, I used to have sellers that did buy products from my website. And at least I know I was selling them good products, but if they were to face a Section 3 supply chain audit in 2024,
because this was 10 years ago. 10 years.
Yeah, this was 2016, way back when,
Right. Right. But now, the supply chain is a bigger deal now. You have to make sure that you're buying from authorized sources. And you have such a huge advantage over those who kind of skirt the rules and ignore them. And because Amazon is taking them, because there's a lot of counterfeit goods out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, we are seeing it every single, I would say for over the last 3 weeks, we've had at least 1 to 3 Section 3 supply chain audits per day coming into us. So, that's a significant number of Section 3 supply chain suspensions that are coming in where people are getting suspended, and Amazon's reactivating them once we help them validate their supply chains, assuming they're good. That being said, there are a couple sellers who, unfortunately, like the guy who wired $50,000 to China, Amazon said no, because they're not willing to accept a Bank of China receipt as proof of authentic goods when the product is coming from a Chinese manufacturer that's not affiliated with the American brand.
Understood. Yeah, don't fall for it. If it sounds too good, to be true, it probably is something that's got a bad news on the other end of it. So yeah, keep doing things the right way. And I appreciate your advice and insights, Jeff. I mean, we've visited this topic before. Amazon's getting increasingly more serious about it. Appreciate all the help you've done on behalf of the good sellers out there, helping us, stay active and rocking. And for those who want to check out Jeff's services, we love to mention it every week, jeffschick.com. You can put him on retainer for a few dollars a month. Man, he'll help answer all these questions and help anything you run into Amazon legal and policy. His team is there for you. So really appreciate your partnership, man.
We're here for you. We're happy to help.
We'll do it again next week. All right, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.